guys, welcome back to the Team Hybrid Racing YouTube channel. Behind me is the Dirt Bug. If you caught the first video on the Dirt Bug, we installed a 212cc motor to the stock frame. Just went over the how-to on that. We ran into a bit of an issue with the throttle cable, and so what I'm going to talk about and what I'm going to call part 2 is installing a new throttle cable. Some of the other things I have in here besides the throttle cables, I've got a new disc brake, new brake pad, so we're going to go ahead and do that swap, which involves pulling the rear axle, etc. And then I also have from a previous modded 212 a muffler. So we'll go ahead and start on those few things. If you didn't catch the first video, I'll link it up right here so you can check that out first. One thing I did do between that video and this video is install the chain guard. It's two simple bolts, not boats. Two simple boats. We're working on bikes, not boats. So anyhow, that's an easy install. I have a chain guard from, I believe it's Go Power Sports. Yeah, GoPowersports.com. I really like that chain guard. It's nice, it's beefy, it works well. Keeps your legs safe. So anyhow, let's go ahead and get some parts installed. All right, the first thing I think we're going to start on is fixing the brakes. The reason I want to replace the brakes is because I don't know when or how it happened, maybe prior to me owning the bike. There's spacers on the rear axle, and I believe one was either too small or missing. I never caught it for the longest time. And what that allowed to do is the rear wheel was able to move side to side, sort of. The disc brake, of course, kind of keeps it trapped, but not enough. And because of that, the disc brake is now warped a bit, and it's worn the brake pads kind of unevenly. So when I did put the correct size sleeve in there, or shim, as the wheel rotates, it's kind of catching the brake pad, so it'll be fine, and then it's warped and it catches, and it's fine, it's warped. So I went ahead and I just ordered some stuff on Amazon, so I mean, this is not like my race car where it's, you know, needs good parts and whatnot. I mean, not to say that you shouldn't put good parts on your dirt bike, but this is a fun toy. So new rotor and brake pads, new bolts. These brake pads are extremely small. I did not anticipate. I thought I ordered the wrong part, to be honest, but no, they're really small. I mean, they're like the size of a quarter. So I think we're going to start on that first. So step one is going to be, I've got some wood over here. We'll go ahead and put it up on a block of wood, and then get the axle out. And then once that's out, I'll probably have to loosen the chain tensioner first to get the chain off of it. Then we'll pull that out, get the brake pads off, get the new rotor swapped in, get the new pads in, and then we'll put that back together. And then after that, we'll probably move on to the throttle cable. So let's start with the brake pad. So again, step one, swing over here. It's on the back side. I made a custom kind of tensioner, so everyone's might be a little different. All I need to do is just loosen this up real quick. That way I can get the chain off of it. There we go. Okay. So pull the chain off the sprocket here, of course. That's step one. And then I have a cotter pin on a castle nut on this side. So let me grab a pair of pliers. Get that off there. Yeah, just a cotter pin on this castle nut on the back side. I assume everyone's is set up like this, but these little mini bikes, you know, they pass around hands quite often, I'm sure. So who knows what everyone still has. Of course, it's going to fight me. There we go. Okay. And then I'm going to try to set this up on the block of wood without it tipping over. There we go. Okay, so now we got the back wheel off. You can see what I'm talking about. This should just spin freely, and it catches. So that's what we are going to fix. This castle nut, actually. So once you take the nut off the far end, the axle is literally just extremely long bolt, which you'll see here just in a minute. So this just pulls all the way through here. And once that's out, you'll have your spacer on both sides. And there you go, there's your rear wheel. So if you at this time wanted to change your sprocket, I can't remember how many teeth are on this. It says HJ70, so it might be a 70-tooth sprocket. This is what came on this. I've never messed with it. For the time being, we'll just leave it the same. But this is the side we're going to be changing out. So here's the disc brake. It's just 6 Allen head bolts that hold it on. Looks like my kit came with a new set of bolts. So, but I'll probably just reuse these guys. So as far as my kit goes, let me move up here in front so you guys can see. I think it's probably 5mm sort of fit. 316. Yeah, it's wobbling. Yeah, I think we'll go with 5. Let's see if we can get this off here. Yeah, not bad. Break all 6 of these loose. And then I'll probably just go grab the socket. Zip them the rest of the way off with that. Yeah, so again, on mine it's just 6 Allen head bolts, 5mm. Let me grab that, put it on my impact. Okay. One, 2. These do have little lock washers, so be sure to hold on to those. Okay, once those are off, the disc brake just slides off. I'm trying to see if I could tell if there's a warp in it. I don't know. Yeah, it looks like it's bent pretty good right there. I can see it. So that means it's pretty bad if you can see it. I mean, yeah. This concrete floor is not the most level, but yeah. So make sure the flange is nice and clean. I mean, I'm not gonna like get out of roto zip or anything or whatever, but so double check. Yep. Same size and everything. Put this back on. Line up the holes, of course. Grab your bolts, lock washer. Probably would be a good time to put some air in this tire since it's low. So I'll tell you what. I'll be right back. I'm going to put air in this because when the brake disc is on it, it's kind of difficult to reach the valve stem. So I'm going to go put air in this. I don't know if I like hit a big hole in the yard last time I drove this, but the tire is flat. So I'm going to go air this up. I'll be right back and then we'll finish installing the disc brake. All right, we've got this thing aired back up, so let's continue on. Again, just set the disc brake on there. Best I can tell, there's not a front side or rear side. It appears to be the same. Bolt, lock washer, and zip them down. So I'll go ahead and put all 6 of those on real quick. Okay, I just snugged them down. I'm not sure if there's any kind of torque spec to this. Again, this little backyard pit bike, dirt bike, I'm not super concerned about that. So next step is let's go ahead and get the brake caliper off and change the pads, and then we'll start putting this all back together. So I'm going to move this out of the way for now. The caliper's just held on with 2 bolts. Just sits here. I believe on this it's 10 mil. So just 1 and 2. I'm not going to worry about taking the brake cable off. This is how you adjust it. So if you have a bunch of slop in the cable, loosen this nut here, probably a 10, and then pull the cable through to take up that slack. But for now, it's good to go. So on the back side, you can see the pads on the middle, and on the back side I have 2 Allen heads, which I believe are once again a 5 mil, which is what we had for the disc brake. What this does is this opens the back side of the caliper. Now keep your hands on this because there is a spring in here, and if you don't, this whole piece will go flying. It's not super strong, but it's enough. So 2 bolts out, and then slowly open this up. And what you have inside of here, there's the back side of the caliper, and then one of the brake pads. This little spring sits in there, just a V-shaped spring. Actually sits upside down, and there's grooves inside the pads where this sits. So we'll take this one out as well. Like I mentioned, I mean, they're small, size of a quarter, if you will. And yeah, I've got some uneven wear on these for sure. So we'll change them. Again, this brake kit from Amazon, the disc and the pads and the new bolts or whatever, it was like $10. So that's the fun part about working on this when I have time, is it's cheap. It's super cheap compared to the car and racing and so on. So let's get these new pads open. And I believe they are identical. Yeah, I don't see any variance in here. This does look like a different kind of material, or those are just extremely dusty and dirty. So step 1, grab the main body of the caliper, set the pad in there, and you'll have the line going towards the top. Kind of makes the pad like a U shape. And you'll take the spring and point it down right inside the middle of the caliper. So it's kind of hard to see, but at this point we've got the caliper sitting in the body. I'm sorry, the pad sitting in the body of the caliper and then the spring. The next step, we'll take the other brake pad and set it kind of on top. It might be easier. It's kind of a 2-part process. You can set the brake pad in the other half, and then at that point kind of flip it over, hold on to the brake pad. You just have to line everything up and keep that spring happy so it doesn't come flying out at you. Look in there and see if you got it lined up. There we go. From there, kind of hold it in your left hand, put a little tension on it. Not too much. You want to be able to drop the 2 Allen bolts back in while keeping everything happy. Because if that spring falls out or moves out of place, it gets out of those grooves, it's not going to go back together. So then what you want to do is just start to get a couple threads started and just work your way back and forth side to side. So I'm just holding this with my left hand, my thumb on the outside of the caliper. That way I can just kind of slide it over, tighten one side, and then once you got enough, you'll see pads are sitting in there nice and even. Give them a look, make sure everything's happy, looks good. So at that point, we'll just go ahead and tighten down the rest of the caliper. There we go. Tighten that a little bit more, just get it snug. Perfect. All right. So since we have the axle out, we'll be able to slide the whole wheel and brake caliper back in there. So I'm going to go ahead and I think I'm going to just bolt this back on. I'm trying to think if that's going to be the easy way to do it or not. Yeah, that should work. Let's see. I'm trying to remember if it's set on the outside or the inside. I think it's the inside. Yeah. So we'll go ahead and put our 2, in this case, 10mm bolts back on. Again, with these little project bikes, I'm sure the hardware may be different, so don't take my 100% word on that size-wise, but get that in here. Zip these down. Perfect. Okay. Now we need to get the axle with our new rotor back on here. Slide this out of the way. Alright. The tricky part here is just getting all of your shims and everything back in. So axle bolt, I can't remember how long. I probably should measure this, but so I've got one spacer first, which sits between the frame and the caliper. I'm sorry, not the caliper, the frame and the brake. The axle, so slide that up there. Put the disc in between the pads, all while getting the, there we go, the spacer in. Once you get the axle started, it's pretty straightforward. Then I've got another shim on the other side. Slide that between, and go ahead and push this the rest of the way in. There we go. Okay, so now I've got the axle all the way through. Get the castle nut back on here. Tighten this all up, and we should be good to go. Let's see here. Not sure what size that is. Probably 5/8. There we go. Okay. Sure, put your cotter pin back in, which I misplaced. Go figure. Well, I'll just go ahead and get a new one. Put a new cotter pin in there. So that is the short story on new brake pads. Let's make sure. Oh yeah. See, now it's not catching anymore like it was before. Nice and smooth. Way better. So that'll really help. Looks like we need to adjust the brake pads though, because it's barely grabbing. So we can tighten that up here. Bring them in a little closer. Let's try that. I might need to adjust the cable a bit more. I guess that's not too bad. I'll have to play around with it once we get it running. Go test drive it and see how that is. I may need to adjust it a little bit with the cable here, like I was talking about before. Tighten it up a bit. But anyhow, all right. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the chain back on the other side over here, and then get the tensioner tightened back up, and then we'll start on putting a new throttle cable on. So for the second of 3 parts of this video, we're going to work on replacing this entire mechanism, and once I get it apart, I'll show you guys kind of what was going on. Again, another part off Amazon. I think this was 15 bucks maybe for the entire assembly. What it comes with is new throttle cable, the new handle piece. I'm not exactly sure what this is called. I should know. Anyhow, it's the piece here that connects the throttle to when you turn it on the throttle handle. This kit came with a new shutoff switch. This one works fine that I have. I did read in the description that the cable was quite short. And yeah, I'm not sure what they're trying to use this for, because it definitely doesn't reach. I don't think for now I'm going to bother with changing it. We'll just leave it as is. So probably won't use that. I'll put it in the box for spares. And then this kit did come with 2 new handle grips, which this one is a bit worn out, and the other side actually does have the throttle piece in it. So step 1 is we'll go ahead and get the old cable and handle assembly off, and then we'll get started on putting it together down here. So to remove the top piece is just 2 Phillips screws. Loosen these guys up. I don't know if the new assembly, yeah, the new assembly has screws, so if you lose them, I guess it's not a big deal, but try not to, I suppose. Okay, so comes apart in two pieces. Top half here, which has the screws that I dropped. And the bottom piece here is what houses the cable, and it just locks in place on the side of the handle. So right there you can see it locks in and then goes around. This cable, and I'll show you, it's at the bottom, has really just come apart on the inside, and so there's a lot of tension on pulling this through. Honestly, we probably could get away with just replacing the cable itself, but for all purposes, as long as this handle swaps out easily, it's not that big a deal. Inside of here, the bottom half, you have the throttle cable, and then you have this little plastic piece, and all this does is it just moves the throttle cable from coming in at this angle to a 90 the other way to wrap around the handle. So we'll take that off. This is all zip tied, so let me grab some cutters. I'll re-zip tie my cables together later on. That one. I zip tie them to the frame just so they're not hanging around everywhere, getting in the way. There's that. This comes around. Oh, I was talking and not paying attention, and I cut off the zip ties for the cutoff switch. So, oh well, I'll put all new zip ties on. So at this point, we can just pull this cable out, and now we've got the old assembly off. And if I cut this back, oh here, I'll just pull it through. You can kind of see, I don't know if you can see in that view, but this cable is coming apart here. It's just shredding, and it really gets caught in here. It's not the greatest. Inside here isn't the best either, so I figured, hey, it's cheap enough. Let's go ahead and replace it and see how that all plays out. So we'll grab the new handle. This guy here, hopefully it just slides on like the other one came off. Yeah, easy peasy. All right. And then the new assembly. Open this bag. It's two parts. Again, Phillips screwdriver. Not a whole lot to it. 2 bolts, 2 screws. One and 2. Now inside of here, there should be, yeah. So there's the little plastic piece that we had before. So the first thing we need to do, take our new throttle cable, unwind it here. Okay. This threaded end goes into the bottom of our piece that goes up here on the handle. So you want to run the cable through that first. Once you have that, then we can thread this on, and this is how we can adjust it later on. So I'm going to go ahead and put it, roughly halfway, and then it's just kind of a lock nut. Okay. Take your plastic piece, put it back in here. Right. And then what we need to do is this will go on the bottom of our handle. You'll wrap it around and slide it in from the side. So anybody who's done any work on cars with a throttle body, the cable, same idea. Slides in just like that. And then sit on the bike here, pull the extra slack back out of the cable, like so. Now you want to make sure this cable goes, this little piece, it sits inside of it, because that is how this whole mechanism works. Easier said than done, especially with one set of hands. Come on. If you turn this a bit, that also helps. It's also the first time I've done this, so. There we go. Okay. Take your top piece, bolt that back on. drop the screws in place. And I'll get this snug, and then we can move everything and make sure it fits right, put the handle where it's supposed to be, etc. Just tightening it down enough that everything doesn't come apart on me. And then once we get it snug, we'll get it the rest of the way on like that. There we go. Okay, so at this point we should be able to, yeah, there we go. So if I pull the cable back through tight, and then I pull it as if we're giving it throttle, you can see right here, boom, perfect. Okay, so I'm gonna tighten this down the rest of the way. You don't need to go crazy with it, just make sure it's snug. They are Phillips heads, so too crazy. I may, after this, take that back apart, just put a little grease in there. But yeah, I mean, pull the cable, there you go. Perfect, love it. And it's just so much more smooth than the other one. The old cable was just trash. So let me see if I got some zip ties in here, and zip tie that up, and then get everything started. Okay, back with the zip ties. So I'm gonna run this cable around the handles here like I had the old one. I may not zip tie everything until I have it where I want it, but I want to at least route it down and around the frame. Okay. So I went through this process with on the first video. Obviously I'm doing it again, but what I have here is a throttle linkage that works quite well, I found, with these 212s. This is actually a Speedco motor, so this is one that you get at like a Tractor Supply. This didn't technically fit this, but I modified, took the cover off, and made it work. So we've got a return spring here on the bottom, and then this spring here just connects to our throttle cable. Now this factory cable that I bought, it does have like a metal sleeve on the end here, which won't fit into our spring, so we'll have to cut that and then adjust it from there. This spring has a small little Allen head, so essentially the cable goes in here, the rest of the cable comes out, we put it through this and tighten it down with this Allen head, which is quite small. On this kit it is, looks like it's just a 1.5 mil, so get that out of there like so. Set that down. So we'll feed this through here. I don't even know if that'll fit through. Yeah, it does. Okay, cool. It'd be really awesome if that fit. Yeah, it doesn't. So we'll have to clip that for sure. So we don't have a lot of cable sticking out, which I thought that might be the case. So I'm gonna have to adjust it for this. What I mean by that is we'll have to take some of this sleeve off the back and then expose more cable. What that does is, right now, that's as far as this goes. So by taking some of the sleeve off will allow us to move this further and get the cable closer to our connection spring here. As you can see, this spring sits right there. I mean, you can get a little bit of tension on it, but really we kind of want it right there. So we'll start short, but looking like probably gonna have to cut about, I don't know, an inch or two off of this new cable. So first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go grab my Dremel, and we'll cut the sleeve off and also this piece here on the end so we can get it all the way through. So let me go grab that, be right back, and we'll start on that step. All right, we're back with the Dremel. So like I said, we'll go ahead and start by cutting the end off here and the sleeve, and then once that's off, we can start seeing how much more we need. What I might do is loosen up. So like I said, there's an adjuster up here at the top, but this also adjusts as well. As, you know, you only get about a 1/2 inch or so of adjustment, but our best bet's to start in the middle, at least for now. So we'll loosen this lock nut, slide this forward. That's roughly center. Tighten that back up. I'm gonna cut the end off first, and then maybe a sleeve. I don't think that'll fit through there. Yeah. So we'll cut the end. Well, I'll cut the sleeve first, actually. Let's look at this again. So in there, yeah, we need quite a bit, especially after I messed with the adjustment here. So I want to get that quite a bit closer. So we'll just start small and work our way forward. I have a good pair of side cuts around here somewhere, but start with these guys. There we go. Now this cap on the end is crushed, so it's probably gonna be easier just to cut it. Need to grab a few more cutoff wheels for my Dremel, but that might be enough to shake it loose for us. Now, if you have the stock linkage on here and the governor and everything, you might get away with just hooking everything back up the same. When I bought this motor, it actually had the governor already removed off of it. And when you do that, it's all built into the factory throttle cable linkage. And so none of this stuff matched up right. Let's see if I can cut this a little more. The key is when you're cutting this to not cut the throttle cable itself, of course. There we go. All right, so I just broke that loose. All right. Now that we have that, there is like the plastic coating on the outside. And then underneath the coating is like a spiral of metal, and that's what kind of keeps the cable, gives it a little flexibility and allows the cable to slide. That's what the cable actually slides in between. So that's where you have to be really careful when cutting. You want to just barely cut and then use a pair of pliers or something to unravel it. So we'll do that first, and then once those two pieces are off, we'll cut the end off and see where we sit. Kind of a weird angle with the way I was cutting it, but a lot of times if you just get a light cut through, then it just breaks, which makes it a little easier. Okay, this one actually has a secondary sleeve on the inside, which is nice to help with the cable. So now I'm going to cut this little nub off the end here so we can get all this extra junk off. Okay, so now we'll pull that crushed piece off and the extra sleeve. Like I said, there is plastic sleeve on the inside. I just dropped something. Maybe I can just get that with these pliers, these cutters. That way I'm not trying to cut that sleeve real close. There we go. All right, so we're just down to this. So as you can tell, I think the throttle was sticking out maybe that far. We've almost doubled it. So at this point, we'll slide this through here. Kind of just get an idea of where we're sitting. So that's not far off at all, but I think we might need a little more. Yeah, and I'll probably run another inch off so that way I can really get this in there. So pull the cable back out again, grab my safety glasses, safety first, even though I don't have my gloves, but that's a whole nother story. Let's get another inch or so off this cable and we'll try it again. Okay, looks like I did have another one, so we're going to try this all over again. As long as this one isn't stripped, we should be good to go. Definitely seems like it's fitting better. Yeah, okay. Feed it again. Yeah, that feels a lot. Yeah, there we go. So I got a way better bite this time. Perfect. Yeah, that's way better. Okay. There we go. It's a little loose, so we might adjust this. There we go. Yeah, that's probably the best this throttle's ever felt on this thing. It's awesome. Probably got a little bit of an adjustment to make down here on the carb, but all in all, yeah, no, that's pretty good. And the return back is really what I was looking for. That's way better than it ever was. So I've got a little slop in the cable, which we might be able to tighten up. What do I do with that Allen I just had? There it is. There we go. Yeah, now we get instant. That's perfect. All right, so that was the second part of this process. We've got the new throttle on there. Feels 100 times better than it used to. So the last piece is just putting this exhaust on, and that's a real simple ordeal. So I'm going to zip tie this up real quick, and I'll flip the bike around so we can check this out. All right, so the last part of the video, part 3, if you will, we're just going to replace the stock muffler. So it's probably a 13 or half inch. It's just 2 nuts right here that hold on the muffler itself. The muffler is this whole big square piece. You can buy all kinds of different styles of mufflers. This one I bought here, I don't think it actually fit this perfectly. I may have cut the flange off and re-welded it. Anyhow, yeah. Take these 2 nuts off. There's a gasket. A lot of times it'll stay on the motor. When you buy these new, they normally come with a new gasket, but I mean, it couldn't get any more simple. Literally just drop this dude back on. Tighten up these 2 nuts. Now I put heat wrap on this because your leg does sit pretty close to it. Again, they make a few different styles, some that come up, some that go down. But this is what I ran on here. You can run it without a muffler. Even with a muffler, it's pretty loud. But everyone has their own taste, I suppose. So just tighten these dudes up. Again, I don't know if there's a spec. Working on something like this, not as big of a deal. Just make sure you get them tight. Sometimes this one's a little easier with a socket, but yeah. So if you want to mod one of these, you can't go wrong just doing something simple like that. So that's it. It's kind of cold in the garage. I don't know if this thing will start. We could try to fire it up for just a couple seconds, but otherwise, that's about it. So thanks for watching, guys. If you have any questions, comment below. Be sure to like, subscribe the channel. Appreciate it. Got lots of fun stuff. Those of you that are frequent to the channel will notice that my car is not in here. It went on a little vacation for some upgrades. So stick around for that. Big news coming on that for 2024 season. Otherwise, we're just having some fun with Dirt Bug. It's probably the last thing I'll do to it unless I decide to buy another intake. Yeah, these things are fun. There's not much to it. They're easy to work on, and they're a blast to drive, especially once now that it's fixed. I'm excited to get it out. But let's start it up, see if it'll run, and we'll catch you guys on the next one. Thanks for watching.